Hi, I'm Nola. If you're looking for a versatile, tough, evergreen Australian native, look no further than the Lilly Pillies. Once they're established, they're drought and wind tolerant and handle tough conditions much better than most. Lilly Pillies are a group of trees and shrubs that are categorised by dense, deep green foliage and purple berries. They grow really quickly and they respond really well to pruning, so they're excellent for hedging, screening, even topiaries in garden beds or pots. There are many different types of Lilly Pillies. Some of the cultivars only get to about 75 centimetres tall, but some of them get to a crazy 30 metres in the rainforest. So there's a Lilly Pilly for every occasion. Now, when you set out in search of the perfect Lilly Pilly, you'll find there's a little bit of confusion about the name. Back in the olden days, we used to call them Eugenia, but now they're classed as either Acmina or Syzygium or Waterhousia. The Acmina varieties tend to have more upright foliage and smaller leaves, whereas the Syzygiums tend to have slightly larger leaves and are bigger growing trees. One of the most popular Lilly Pillies is the Lilly Pilly Sublime in the Acmina smithii family. It's very tolerant of extreme conditions, can cope with drought, but it can also cope with cold. It gets to about 5 metres tall and about 3 metres wide, and it has delicious purple berries. Other great options are the Backyard Bliss, which is tall, dense and makes a great screen. Another good option is the Resilience, which is very psyllid resistant. Once you've decided on the best Lilly Pilly for your garden, it's time to decide where to plant it. Lilly Pillies are native to rainforests, so they like wet, warm conditions in very nutrient-rich soil. But they're very tough and they can grow almost anywhere. Lilly Pillies do really well in either full sun or part shade. They don't generally like frost, but there's a couple of varieties, such as the Forest Flame, which can cope with a light frost. When your plants are very little though, give them a bit of protection from strong winds, but once they're established, they won't need that protection anymore. Lilly Pillies do well in a range of soil types, from sandy loam through to heavy clay, but they do best in fertile soils. If you have got fairly poor soil, you can improve it by adding some lovely organic compost and manure. And if you're in very heavy clay, adding some gypsum will help the clay molecules repel each other, so you've got better drainage. Most Lilly Pilly varieties are very easy to grow from seed, but germination takes quite a long time, so you have to be a little bit patient. You just grab some ripe fruit and you open it up, clean the seeds and pop them into seed raising mix. Give them a bit of a watering on a regular basis, keep them moist, and if you use a greenhouse like this, it will create a warm and humid environment and you'll have seedlings before you know it. If you prefer, you can grow your Lilly Pillies from cuttings. It's really easy to do. You just take a nice sharp pair of secateurs and you cut sections about 10 centimetres long. Take the bottom leaves off, like that, and grab some hormone gel. We dip the end into the hormone gel, and I like to use a stick or a pencil just to make a hole in the propagating mix so that the hormone gel doesn't come off. We're popping it in there and we're giving it a water. And make sure that you do use a premium propagating mix that you're planting into. Once all your cuttings are finished, give them a water and then keep them in a warm, humid environment like this mini hothouse. When planting, give it a head start by applying some slow-release controlled fertiliser before you plant. You dig a hole twice as wide and twice as deep as the root ball, and then you backfill it with the existing soil. And then you can water it in with some seaweed concentrate. That helps to stimulate root growth and helps it settle in. When laying out your new plants, remember that Lilly Pillies have quite a vigorous root system, so don't plant them on top of your mains or sewage systems. And remember the 3-to-1 rule when you're spacing them out. That is, if you want your plants to get 1.8 metres high, you would space them about 60 centimetres apart. With your Lilly Pillies planted and taking well, it's time to start thinking about how you can care for them to make them thrive. The first thing you'd be looking out for are pests and diseases, and treating them early is the key to keeping plants healthy. The most common insect is the sap-sucking psyllid. The psyllid larvae get on the underside of the leaves and they cause sort of pimples or bubble-like protrusions on the top. The best way to get rid of them is to take your secateurs and to trim off the affected leaves. And then you throw the leaves into a sealed bag and dispose of them. Syzygiums are particularly susceptible to psyllid attack, but there are a number of cultivars that have been bred to be psyllid resistant, such as the backyard bliss. Scale is another sap-sucking pest. They can sap the life out of your stems and leaves unless you get onto them quickly. White oil is the best treatment to get rid of scale. You spray it on them and it suffocates them, but just make sure it's not going to rain for 2 days, otherwise it'll wash off. If you notice your leaves are going a bit black, it's probably sooty mould. Now the way that sooty mould gets there is insects on your plant release a chemical called honeydew, and the sooty mould grows on the honeydew. So if you get rid of the insects, you get rid of the sooty mould, and you can do that by using neem oil or white oil. If you notice yellow leaves on your Lilly Pilly, it can be a sign of overwatering, or it could be a nutrient deficiency, in which case we would give it some fertiliser. If you notice chomped leaves on your Lilly Pilly, it's probably due to the Lilly Pilly beetle. They're little iridescent green beetles that look exactly like a ladybird, and the way to get rid of them is to use some neem oil and some eco oil. Myrtle rust can also be a problem, but if you spot it, just trim off the affected leaves and spray the rest with a fungicide. Generally speaking though, Lilly Pillies are quite resistant to both pests and diseases as long as they're well fed and well watered. In spring, help your Lilly Pillies maximise their potential by giving them some all-purpose controlled fertiliser. And you can also give them a side dressing of some lovely composted manure and they can achieve their potential. When the weather warms up in summer, water becomes our focus. Plants can dry out very quickly, so they need good drainage and regular watering. Particularly if you've got your plants in pots, you need to use a good quality premium potting mix and water regularly. If plants become a little bit too dry, they tend to stress, and that causes more problems with pests and diseases. And you might want to consider even putting in an irrigation system with a timer to make life easier for you. Lilly Pillies also really like mulch. So in early summer, we can apply a layer of mulch about 5 to 8 centimetres thick of organic sugarcane mulch. This is great because it helps to suppress the weeds, keeps the moisture in the soil, and it also helps to regulate the temperature of the soil as well. And the other thing about mulch is when it breaks down over time, it actually improves the soil structure as well, so it's a win-win situation. But of course, with all this wonderful growth that's going to happen because you've been looking after your Lilly Pillies so well, they might need a bit of a summer pruning. Don't be afraid, Lilly Pillies can be cut back quite hard to keep them from getting unruly. But of course, remember to give them a good watering both before and after you prune. It helps stop the stress in the leaves. If you're trying to grow a hedge or a screen, it's a good idea to tip prune them on a regular basis. You tip prune the tops and the sides, and this creates dense bushy growth. You start doing that when they're quite young, because if you let them get to their desired height, they won't fill out properly. And a good idea is to use a string line to help with your accuracy when you're pruning. Larger varieties that are being grown as specimen trees tend to have a really nice shape anyway, so all they really need is a bit of a prune and a tidy up every couple of years. You can actually prune Lilly Pillies at any time of the year, but if you have to do a heavy prune, leave it until late winter or early spring. After a light prune in autumn, you might need to top up the fertiliser to keep the nutrient levels up. And check your mulch, you might need to put a little bit more mulch on, and this helps to keep the soil temperature warmer over the winter. So there you have it. There's a perfect Lilly Pilly for every gardener and every garden. So pop down to your local Bunnings and pick the perfect plant for you. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips and tricks.